George Colton didn't wait for the elevator doors to finish sliding open. He stormed out of them, nearly knocking over two security guards as he charged down the hallway of his own penthouse. His chest heaved, his pulse hammered, and his vision tunneled with a fury he could barely contain. In his fist was his phone, the screen still glowing with the message that had detonated his entire world just 20 minutes earlier. "George, slow down," his assistant called from behind him, but George didn't even hear her. All he heard, over and over, was Marcus's voice on the phone. Shaking. Whispering. Repeating the same words until George could no longer deny the panic crawling through him. "George, your kids, they're not yours. Naomi lied to you." George slammed open the door to his study, sending a stack of documents spilling to the floor. The room was dark except for the city skyline bleeding through the glass walls. He paced, fingers trembling, breath ragged as he replayed Marcus's tone. It wasn't the tone of a man delivering gossip. It was the tone of a man warning a friend before the world exploded beneath his feet. He opened the text thread again. The photos Marcus sent. Screenshots of what looked like a medical portal. DNA markers. A paternity tab. A highlighted section reading, "No biological match." It felt like someone reached inside his chest and ripped something out of him. His son, Caleb, was 6. His daughter, Mila, was 5. His baby girl, Royal, was barely 2. He loved those kids like his own heartbeat, because they were his. They had to be his. They had his smile, didn't they? His laugh? His stubbornness? His gaze flicked to a framed picture on his desk. Naomi holding baby Royal, smiling at the camera with tired eyes and soft warmth. His wife. His anchor. His reason. She was the one part of his life that had never been touched by the chaos of being a billionaire. She was real, grounding, steady. And now Marcus was telling him she was a liar. George's phone buzzed again. "Marcus." He hesitated, just 1 second, before answering. "Marcus," he said, voice tight, "tell me everything. All of it. Now." Marcus exhaled shakily. "I didn't want to tell you like this. I've been sitting on this for weeks. I thought maybe I was wrong. But I got access to the results again. Bro, I've seen them with my own eyes." "How?" George snapped. "It doesn't matter how. What matters is the truth." Marcus's voice dropped lower, slower. "Those kids, they don't share your DNA." Every muscle in George's body locked. Marcus continued, sounding almost sympathetic. "Look. Naomi's been acting strange lately. You said it yourself. The late-night calls. The sudden secrets. Bro, I'm telling you, something's off. I just thought you deserved to know." George swallowed the metallic taste of nausea. "Are you sure?" he whispered. "Marcus, are you absolutely sure? I wouldn't call you if I wasn't." George closed his eyes, fighting for breath. Marcus had never lied to him, not once. Not in 25 years of friendship. They grew up like brothers. Survived school together. Built businesses side by side. Marcus was the one man he trusted without question. So why did his stomach feel like it was being stabbed from the inside? A soft voice broke through the storm spiraling in his head. "George?" He turned sharply. Naomi stood at the doorway in her robe, hair falling over her shoulders, eyes heavy with concern. She held Royal on her hip, the toddler rubbing her sleepy eyes. George's heart twisted. He loved them. God, he loved them. "Are you okay?" Naomi asked quietly. Every instinct screamed at him to pull her close, to breathe her in, to let her reassure him like she always did. Instead, he stepped back. Naomi froze. Confusion flickered across her face, her brows pinching. Royal reached toward her father with a tiny, tired whimper. George's stomach clenched, but he couldn't bring himself to take her. Naomi shifted slightly. "George, what's going on?" He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The accusation felt too heavy. Too poisonous. Too unforgivable to speak aloud without proof. He forced his voice into something steady. "It's late. Put her back to sleep." She hesitated, glancing between him and the tension choking the room. Then, without another word, she turned and walked away, gently bouncing their daughter as she disappeared down the hallway. The moment she was gone, George sagged onto the edge of his desk and buried his face in his hands. He couldn't think. He couldn't breathe. The walls felt too close, the air too thick, his thoughts too sharp. He needed proof. Real proof. Something undeniable. Because if what Marcus said was true. He didn't let himself finish the thought. Instead, he pulled open the bottom drawer of his desk and retrieved a DNA testing kit he had ordered months ago for a health project. His hands shook as he held it. He didn't want to do this. But he didn't have a choice. He texted Marcus. "Come tomorrow morning. Before Naomi wakes up. I want to see everything you have." Marcus replied instantly. "I'll be there. You're doing the right thing." George didn't know if that was true. He just knew his life had split down the middle, before that message, and after. And the ground beneath him wasn't done shaking. As he stared at the DNA kit in his hand, one thought refused to leave him. What if Marcus was right? George didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Naomi's face, hurt, confused, soft with worry, and he saw his own silence cutting into her like a blade. He saw his kids' smiles. He saw Marcus's messages. He saw DNA markers burned into his vision like a curse. By morning, his eyes were bloodshot, his jaw tight, his heart thundering with a mixture of dread and anger he couldn't control. At precisely 7:03 a.m., Marcus let himself into the penthouse, bypassing the staff who knew him well. He walked into the study with a manila envelope under his arm and a look that tried too hard to mimic concern. "You look awful," Marcus said quietly. George didn't bother responding. He extended a hand. "Show me." Marcus placed the envelope on the desk and slid out printed pages, copies of the DNA report. The same ones he sent last night. George scanned them again, even though the words already seared themselves into his skull. No biological match. His throat tightened. Marcus stepped closer. "I know you don't want to believe it. But, George, you can't ignore evidence." George forced himself to breathe, to think, to act rationally even as disbelief surged through him like a rising tide. "Where did you get these?" he asked, voice low. Marcus hesitated, just slightly, but covered it with a sigh. "I told you. I had someone working in the hospital system, someone who owed me a favor." George's eyes narrowed. "Why were you checking my family's medical records?" "Because I noticed things you didn't." Marcus snapped, then quickly softened his tone. "Look, I'm sorry. But I saw the signs. Naomi acting different. The kids not looking like you as much as we thought. Anne. I didn't want you to be blindsided." George swallowed hard. Anger simmered beneath his grief, but he pushed it down. "I want another test." Marcus blinked. "What?" "George, do you really think?" "I want another test," George repeated, sharper. "I want it done today. And I want you here when I collect the samples." Marcus exhaled. "Okay. Fine. Whatever makes you feel better." George didn't respond. He lifted the DNA kit from the desk, a heaviness settling in his chest as he heard footsteps approaching the study. Naomi appeared at the doorway, her expression tired, but her tone soft. "Good morning." She paused when she saw Marcus. "You're here early." "Yeah," Marcus said with a small smile. "Just helping George with something." Her eyes slid to the testing kit in George's hand. Silence filled the room. Thick. Heavy. Electric. "George," she whispered. "Why do you have that?" His heart twisted. He didn't answer. Marcus stepped back, hands in his pockets, pretending not to enjoy the tension in the air. Naomi moved slowly into the room, her eyes never leaving George's face. Are you testing our children without talking to me?" George wanted to speak, but fear clamped around his tongue. "Just tell me what's going on," Naomi pleaded. "Please." Marcus watched like a man waiting for a bridge to collapse. George clenched his jaw. "I need answers." "About what?" Naomi's voice broke. "About me?" George didn't look at her. He couldn't. He felt her heartbreak without seeing it. Naomi reached for his hand, but he stepped back instinctively. That single movement hurt her more than any shouted accusation. "George," she whispered, voice trembling, "do you think I cheated on you?" He could barely breathe. "I don't know what to think." A strangled sound escaped her throat. Marcus shifted smugly at the corner of the room, but George was too blinded to see it. Naomi turned away slowly, holding herself as though trying to keep her ribs from splitting open. "I have never betrayed you." "Never." She swallowed. "You want to test the kids? Fine. But don't you dare do it behind my back like I'm some stranger." George tightened his grip on the test. "Then let's do it now." She wiped her cheeks, nodded, and walked out to get the children. Marcus leaned in. "See? She's panicking. Guilty people panic." George shot him a sharp look, but Marcus backed off, feigning sympathy. The children came in one by one, sleepy and confused. Caleb asked if he was getting shots. Mila asked if she did something wrong. Royal just wanted to be held. George felt something tear inside him as he swabbed their cheeks. Naomi stood by the wall, arms crossed, tears slipping silently down her face. She looked less like a wife and more like a ghost of someone whose world was collapsing in slow motion. George didn't look at her once. After the samples were sealed, Naomi finally whispered, "If you trusted me, you would have asked me first." George said nothing. Marcus exhaled dramatically. "I'll take the samples to the lab." Naomi flinched. "Why is he involved in this?" "Because he's the one who told me," George said before he could stop himself. Naomi stared at Marcus, then back at George. Horror dawned on her face. "You believed him over me?" "I believed the evidence," George snapped. Naomi recoiled like he hit her. Marcus collected the samples and walked out, but not before giving Naomi a look George couldn't interpret. The moment he was gone, Naomi stepped closer, voice raw. "I don't know what Marcus showed you or why he's meddling in our marriage, but I'm telling you right now, something is wrong." George laughed bitterly. "Something is wrong, Naomi. And until I know what, I can't trust anything you say." She trembled. "So you don't trust me at all?" He looked away. She choked on a breath and whispered, "If this is the path you want to take, then prepare yourself for answers you're not ready for." She walked out before he could respond. For the first time since Marcus's call, a sliver of doubt stabbed through George's certainty. Because in Naomi's eyes, just before she left, he hadn't seen guilt. He'd seen devastation. And something else. Fear. Marcus didn't return until late afternoon, by which time the tension in the penthouse felt like a living thing, heavy, suffocating, impossible to ignore. George spent the entire day replaying every moment of his marriage, every conversation with Naomi, every little inconsistency he suddenly couldn't explain. Meanwhile, Naomi moved through the house like a shadow, barely speaking, barely breathing, her eyes swollen as she cared for the kids in silence. When Marcus finally walked in, George nearly lunged for the envelope in his hand. "Well?" George demanded. Marcus looked grim, almost mournful. "We need to talk." George's stomach turned. "Just say it." Marcus closed the study door and lowered his voice. "It's what I told you. The samples don't match you. Any of them." George felt the ground tilt beneath him. His breath stopped. His pulse didn't feel like his own. Naomi's soft laugh. Mila dancing in the living room. Caleb asking him to read stories. Little Royal falling asleep on his chest. All lies? He felt like he was breaking open from the inside. Marcus placed a hand on his shoulder. "I'm sorry, man. I really am. But at least now you know the truth." George sank into his chair, staring blankly at the ceiling as pain he didn't know he could survive began to claw its way through him. Marcus softened his voice even more. "You need to confront her. She owes you an explanation." George didn't move. Couldn't. Marcus leaned closer. "She played you, George. I hate to say it, but she—" "Get out," George whispered. Marcus froze. "What?" George's voice grew sharper, colder. "Get out." Marcus stepped back, startled, but didn't argue. He left silently, closing the door behind him. George didn't know how long he sat there. Minutes. Hours. Time didn't exist. Only the ache. When he finally stood, it was with a heaviness that made each step feel like a burden. He found Naomi in the nursery, rocking Royal gently as she hummed a quiet lullaby. Her voice trembled with emotion, but she kept trying, kept soothing their daughter even as tears streaked her cheeks. George stood at the door, watching her. Studying her. His wife. The woman he built a life with. The one person he believed would never hurt him. She looked up when she felt his presence. Her eyes were tired, broken. "Did the results come in?" she whispered, already knowing the answer. George didn't trust his voice, so he nodded. Naomi pressed her lips together, holding back a sob. "And you believe them?" He swallowed hard. "They're facts." "They're manipulated," she said softly. George clenched his fists. "Naomi." "Don't," she said, her voice cracking. "Just don't. If you're going to accuse me of something so ugly, at least let me put Royal down first." She carried the sleeping toddler to her crib and laid her gently inside before turning back to him. "Tell me," she said quietly. "What do you think I did?" George felt his jaw clench. "I think you lied to me. I think you hid something. Something big. And I think Marcus saw the truth before I did." Naomi laughed, a hollow, devastated sound. "Marcus. You trust Marcus? He showed me evidence." "He showed you what he wanted you to see," Naomi said, voice trembling. "George, for months I've been telling you he's been too invested in our family. Too involved. Too observant. Too attached. But you brushed it off." George's chest tightened. "Attached? What does that even mean?" Naomi looked at him for a long moment, her eyes filling with pity and heartbreak. "George, he's in love with me." The words didn't sink in immediately. They hit slowly, like drops of ice water spreading across his skin. "What?" he whispered. Naomi nodded, tears falling. "He's in love with me, George. He has been for years. I've known. I tried to ignore it. I thought maybe I was wrong. But then he started acting like he knew our marriage better than we do. Like he had a place in it. Like I owed him something." She wiped her face with the back of her hand. And now he's convinced you that our children aren't yours. George opened his mouth, but Naomi shook her head. Before you say anything else, it's time. Time for what? George asked. Naomi took a shaky breath. Time to tell you the truth. The real truth. The one I've been carrying alone for 7 years. The one I should have told you the day we got married, but I was scared you'd walk away. George's heartbeat quickened. Naomi, what truth? She motioned for him to sit, and he did, almost involuntarily, as if his body obeyed her even while his mind waged war. Naomi sat across from him, hands trembling in her lap. I need you to listen. All the way through. Don't interrupt me. Don't assume anything. Just listen. George nodded stiffly. Naomi inhaled deeply. Before you and I ever met, my sister Clara was trying to have a baby. She had a rare fertility disorder, and after years of trying, her doctor told her she'd never carry a child of her own. George frowned slightly. Naomi continued. We're identical twins, George. Same DNA. Same markers. Same everything. Clara was desperate. And I loved her. So when the doctor suggested a rare, experimental option, one that involved me being a surrogate, I agreed. George stared at her, breath caught in his throat. It worked, Naomi whispered. But there was a complication. Something the doctor said happens once in millions of cases. During the process, I conceived naturally as well. 2 embryos. One from Clara and her husband, and one from me. George felt the room tilt. The babies grew together. Side by side. A double pregnancy. My child, and my sister's child. Her voice broke. And before she could see either baby born, Clara died. A tear slid down Naomi's cheek. I made a promise at her bedside. That I would protect her child. That I would raise them as my own. That no one would ever separate them. George's heart slammed against his ribs. George, our daughter Mila, she's Clara's. That's why the DNA doesn't match you. That's why the test is off. There's no betrayal. No affair. No secret lover. She pressed her palms to her chest. Just a promise I made to my sister. A promise I've been terrified to break. The world fell silent. Naomi wiped her tears and whispered, now you know the truth. All of it. George didn't move. For a long, fragile moment, he stood there staring at the birth certificate as if every line on the page was written in a language he didn't understand. Naomi watched him with a softness that cracked something inside her. She waited. Not impatiently. Not defensively. Just waited, as though she finally trusted him to arrive at the truth on his own. He lowered the document. So, his voice shook. You already knew. I knew about the research, yes. Her breath trembled. But I didn't know Marcus used it on you. Or twisted it. Or weaponized it. I had no idea he would ever hurt you like that. You've kept secrets. So have I. George ran a hand through his hair. But this? All these years. I blamed myself. I blamed biology. I blamed you. I blamed everyone. And all this time, there was an explanation, one that had nothing to do with infidelity. Naomi stepped closer, cautiously, as if approaching a wounded animal. George, they are your children. Nobody can take that from you. Not Marcus. Not a faulty test. Not fear. He exhaled shakily. Naomi, he swallowed hard. Why didn't you tell me about the medical research sooner? Why didn't you tell me something that big? Because I was scared you'd think I was making excuses. Her voice cracked. Scared you'd think I planned it. Or that I manipulated nature. Or that I hid something. I didn't want the truth to sound like a lie. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't accusing. She was just, honest. George nodded slowly. He understood. Painfully. Deeply. Because he had spent years doing the same, hiding truths until they looked like lies. A sharp knock startled both of them. Naomi flinched. Who is that? George crossed the room and checked the security feed. His face darkened. It's Marcus. Her breath caught. You didn't call him, did you? I blocked his number. George's jaw flexed. He must have followed the cops. Or hacked into something. He knows too much. Another knock. Louder. More demanding. George, open the door. We need to talk. Naomi grabbed his arm, voice low and urgent. Please don't open it. He's dangerous. George wasn't afraid. He was furious. And Marcus had picked the wrong moment, because George had just learned the truth, and the truth had put steel in his veins. He opened the door. Marcus stood there, drenched in sweat, eyes wild, breathing hard as though he'd sprinted all the way. George, listen to me, okay? I can explain everything. No, George said quietly, dangerously. You'll listen. Marcus looked past him and spotted Naomi. He went still. Oh. His lips curled slowly into something that wasn't a smile. So she told you her little version of events. Her edited truth. Her. George's fist hit him so fast the sound echoed in the hallway. Naomi gasped. George. Marcus stumbled back into the doorframe, clutching his jaw, eyes blazing. You hit me, he spat. You lied to me, George said. You invaded my family. You manipulated my emotions. You used my trauma against me. Marcus wiped blood from his lip. I was protecting you. From what? George snarled. My own children? My own wife? You're too blind to see it, Marcus snapped. She changes you. She weakens you. You used to be sharp. Focused. Like me. Now you're soft. Slipping. Drowning under some fairy tale family life. I couldn't watch it happen. I won't watch you lose yourself. Naomi whispered, he sounds unstable. Marcus pointed at her sharply. Stay out of this. George stepped between them. She's not going anywhere. Marcus looked at George, really looked at him, and something dark flickered in his expression. Jealousy. Possession. Obsession. You were supposed to be my brother, Marcus said through gritted teeth. And she took you away. George froze. So did Naomi. Marcus's voice cracked with something that was not entirely anger, it was desperation. You don't see it, do you? Marcus stepped closer, trembling. I built this empire with you. I carried your darkest secrets. I held your hand through loss and grief and pressure. I made sure you never fell apart. And when she came, when she showed up with her perfect smile and perfect answers, you started choosing her over me. George stared at him warily. Marcus, what are you saying? Marcus's breath shook. You're mine, he whispered. You were supposed to stay mine. Naomi's hand flew to her mouth. George felt the ground tilt beneath him. Marcus laughed, a broken sound. I loved you, you idiot. Naomi nearly collapsed. George felt his heart rupture, not from confusion, but from betrayal cut so deep it felt surgical. Marcus wiped his face with trembling hands, smearing blood. I did everything to keep you. I did everything to make her look unworthy. The DNA test. Her schedule leaks. The fake rumors. All of it. And it was supposed to work. You were supposed to see she wasn't right for you. You were supposed to come back to me, George. George grabbed the edge of the doorframe, stunned. He didn't judge Marcus for who he loved. He judged him for what he'd done in the name of that love. You hurt my family, George whispered. You hurt my children. Marcus's voice broke. Because I was losing you. George's eyes hardened. You lost me the second you chose cruelty. Naomi whispered, George, call the police. Marcus backed away, breathing fast, eyes flickering like he was on the edge of something dangerous. I'm not going to jail for loving you, he hissed. I'd rather burn everything down. He lunged. Naomi screamed. George shoved her behind him and caught Marcus's arm mid-swing. They crashed into the wall, grappling, bodies slamming against furniture. George wasn't a fighter, but adrenaline made him stronger. Marcus fought like a man unhinged, clawing, thrashing, yelling incoherent words. Naomi grabbed her phone, voice shaking as she dialed. Emergency. Please, someone is attacking my husband. Marcus threw a punch that grazed George's temple. George retaliated with a shove that sent Marcus crashing into the glass coffee table. It shattered with a violent crack. Marcus lay there, gasping, blood streaking across the shards. Naomi rushed to George, cupping his face. Are you okay? He nodded, breathless. Call the kids. Make sure they're safe. They are. They're with Carla. Sirens wailed outside. Police burst into the penthouse moments later. Marcus didn't resist. He just stared at George with a hollow emptiness, as if his soul had already left long before the cops put him in cuffs. I loved you, he muttered as they dragged him away. You should have loved me too. When the door finally shut behind them, the silence felt heavier than the fight. George sank onto the couch, head in his hands. Naomi knelt beside him. George, she touched his shoulder gently. What are you thinking? He lifted his head, eyes glassy. I could have lost you, he whispered. I could have lost everything. She rested her forehead against his. But you didn't. He exhaled, a long, broken release. I don't deserve you. Naomi smiled softly. Maybe not. But you're mine anyway. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the only thing anchoring him to the earth. And for the first time in years, he felt whole. If you stayed with this story till the end, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more powerful stories. Your support means everything. Until next time, this is StoryVerse TV.